So what we're going to do now, since I last spoke to you, I've sewn the sleeves into the lining, and they're a different colour, but that's just because the way the lining worked out. So the sleeves have been sewn in and pressed, the side seams have been pressed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach the sleeve hems together. And the way that I've pulled it around like this, you can see that we've got the right side. So this is the right front. This is the right facing here, and we pulled all that so that all of the outside is facing in. And then you can see, if we look at the sleeve here, this is the one-piece sleeve on this side. The seams down here, and then the seams down here on the lining. So what we need to do is bring these together, and obviously we need right sides together. So actually, before we join them together, one first thing is just to do a little halfway notch, because this isn't, generally it's not on a pattern, but it'll just help us sew them together. So we've just created a little V notch there on the outer sleeve. So when we pull these together, we've got obviously the wrong sides go together, which means that the right sides go together here. So we're going to just pull this sleeve open. We open it like this, and then we put our sleeve here. So we've got the right sides facing in. Now we can put a pin in here and then swing this around, and we can put another pin in the outer layer here. So 2 pins, and this way we can sew all around the sleeve, and that will be done. So what I might do is go to the machine and finish this, and then we'll do the other one. All right, so we're at the machine now, and we've got our pins in place here. So what we're going to do, because the lining is actually, it has a tendency to be a bit smaller than the outside layer, we're actually going to sew with the lining on top. And so if you've got that pin there, and just pull that lining a little bit taut so you can find halfway. I'm going to stitch this around at 1 centimetre here. So again, make sure the raw edges line up. Alright, so what's going to happen now is that because this only has the one seam here, because it's just the underarm seam, it's a one-piece sleeve, what we really want to happen is for this facing to turn up, and that's why I've creased the sleeve at its, at the 5 centimetre mark. Thing is, if we sew this onto here, we can tack the seam allowance here onto the seam allowance of the underarm there, but really that's not going to be enough to hold it all the way around here, and there's a chance that when the garment is on the body, that the hem will slip down, and the facing the lining will be seen. So what we want to do is we can still attach that there, but on this outside edge where this seam touches the outer fabric, what we're going to do is we're going to get some pre-cut fusing. So this is just, I've literally cut it like 1/2 inch, like 12 millimeters, just regular interfacing, the same that we used on the garment, and we're just going to sew some onto this seam allowance. So we don't have to start right at the edge because that's going to be tacked anyway. So maybe like 4 or 5 centimeters along. And we're just going to tack this onto the seam allowance of the sleeve. So I'm not stitching along the stitch line. I'll show you when I've done. So you can see there, I've just stitched along, not on the stitch line, just inside the stitch line, so it's all happening in the seam allowance. And what's going to happen then is that when we've got the garment turned around the right way, we're going to press the interfacing against the outside layer. The glue will melt and it will hold up the hem allowance for us. Now just going back here, make sure that it's folded right on the 5 centimeter fold at the bottom, and then we're just going to pull it away, and all I've got is the 1 seam allowance of the sleeve, and I'm just going to tack that again in the seam allowance, tack that through with a couple of back tacks on there, so it's holding, so this bit here of the hem's being held up and the rest of it will be held up by the interfacing that we've got here. And what I can do now, just to show you where we ended up, so get in here between the layers, and pull this out. So you can see here, there's the lining inside there, where the where we tacked it onto the seam allowance. It's not falling down, and so we'll just have to give this another press. We won't do that just yet. We'll do the other sleeve hem first.